Hi, everybody. I am so excited to have my amazing colleagues here. Lacey Peters and Carmen Brown have been just incredible. I first saw this presentation of them using Google Sites for program-based information and adjunct support, and of course, integrating justice, inclusion, and diversity principles at a School of Ed meeting. And I saw the site and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to create one of my own. I want everyone to know about it. Like it's the most incredible creation. And I know they both worked so hard on it. So I will put it to them to show their site and show how they sort of created it. But bravo to both of you. I mean, you're amazing colleagues, but I mean, this site is incredible. Wait till you see it. I can't wait. So Lacey and Carmen, I'll put it to you.
Okay, first I'm just going to introduce myself and then Lacey can introduce herself. I am Carmen Brown. As Gina said, I'm a faculty member in the School of Education in the Curriculum and Teaching Department in the Early Childhood Program. I'm the program leader for the undergraduate, and Lacey and I co-coordinate the graduate program, which is twice the size of our undergraduate program. Lacey and I started together at Hunter at the same time. We've gone through this journey the same time. We're coming up on 10 years. We always mark our anniversaries and all those things. We're just like two kindred spirits. We're yin and yang, really. So I'll let Lacey introduce herself before we get into our Google site presentation.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's true. Yeah, I've had the incredible honor and privilege of working with Carmen for the past 10 years, and we've gone through a lot together, as she's saying, but one of the highlights is creating resources like this, and Carmen really did take the lead on this, and so a lot of what you'll see today is all of her time and work and dedication. And anyway, I'm also in curriculum and teaching. I guess that's somewhat implied. I work in the early childhood program, just right alongside Carmen, and primarily with the graduate students. I would teach undergrad classes, but it's been a while since I've been able to do that. But we are really looking towards the future and figuring out ways we can make sure that there's at least faculty, full-time faculty present in all realms of the student work that we love so much. So thank you very much to Gina for this invitation. I definitely miss having you as a neighbor too on the 11th floor. And Gina's end of the semester celebrations are epic, and that's something maybe we'll just have to emulate now that you're downstairs. But anyway, thanks for your time, and yeah, Carmen, just thank you for everything you do. Just truly a privilege. Yeah.
It's always nice to have co-workers and colleagues that you're on the same page all the time. And that's the way I feel with Lacey. We're always on, and Maria too, because it's the three of us. We're the three musketeers, but we welcome a fourth and a fifth musketeer if that's what they want. But you know, we have a heavy load and we persevere and we really get through it. So basically, our this Google site came from the culturally responsive pedagogy, anti-bias, anti-racist curriculum that we really want to focus and support our part-time faculty and really understanding how to really embed it in their classrooms. As we only have 3 full-time faculty and we have 2 large programs. So 90% of our courses are taught by our part-time faculty. And because they are part-time faculty, they're in various stages of their own development. Some are retired, some are full-time teachers, some are full-time directors. They just have a lot going on for them. So we decided to create a Google site to really support them, not only with culturally responsive pedagogy, but also with updates, information, as contact information. So I'm going to go through each of the tabs just to let everybody know what was our focus. So again, because our faculty, our adjunct faculty come from different pathways, they have different experiences, different level of expertise, we really wanted to set the foundational knowledge. Okay, some of our faculty are so familiar with this, they could be doing what Lacey and I are doing. And then we have some who are content So we may have a person that's teaching science, and they've been embedded in the science and not so much as in the culturally responsive pedagogy, even though it goes hand in hand, but really they think of more of the content and being content specific. So our first page is really all about culturally responsive pedagogy. We have a nice graphic that really talks about all of the different components of culturally responsive pedagogy. And just we have a lot of hyperlinks in there. So this will be a hyperlink to a lot of the research if they wanted to see where the research came from. And just a lot of basic information so that we're all on the same foundation and we all have the same, we're looking through the same lens, so to speak. So this is the foundational knowledge, and also to let them know that the School of Education has an equity and advocacy committee, and their work on guiding principles to support the diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. Actually, they've changed the name to JEDI. So it uses the same vocabulary, just in a different order, because JEDI sounds so much better, right? So again, there's a hyperlink to the working document that they've been working on. So this first page really sets the foundation. Then our next page is really just some books to really get them to really looking up their own information, really taking responsibility for their own knowledge about this. So we have Soretta Hammond's book, and also looking at the dimensions of equity. And I feel this is really important. I use this in my classes because a lot of times the students really get confused with multicultural education and culturally responsive pedagogy, because they're thinking having books, having a potluck supper with students coming in is culturally responsive pedagogy. And even though it is a level of equity and providing equitable opportunities, it is not culturally responsive pedagogy. And how you can really use that in the early childhood classroom. And I use this in my classes because I do teach the preschool. I teach all the way through, but I really emphasize the preschool because that's the most neglected in our field, and how you really can support young children in understanding multicultural education, social justice, and culturally responsive pedagogy. Again, we have webinars in here, and these are the misconceptions. I really found this to be very valuable because there is so many misconceptions about what culturally responsive teaching is. Geneva Gay's work, the Angel Paris, and he came as a part of the Equity, Advocacy, and Equity Committee. He was one of the people that came to talk. The Equity and Social Justice, Don't Look Away, Embracing Anti-Bias, The Troublemakers. This is a really, really good book because it really hits home, because it's really case studies and looking at children. This one really opened your eyes. We Want to Do More Than Survive. Bettina Love was also one of the speakers that came, and she's very powerful, very real, very raw. Why are all the Black kids sitting together in the cafeteria? And this is seminal work. My daughter read this in high school. So Rethinking Early Childhood Education. Again, not just thinking this is for older children, it's really about the whole early child community. And remember, Lacey and I are early childhood educators, so we really focus this on the early childhood, but it's easily transmittable and transferable to the adolescents and college age. No More Culturally Irrelevant Teaching, Mariana Suda Manning. She was one of our Tepper fellows. So we've really embedded in, we really invested in these authors and coming in and speaking and making it real, making those connections. Affirming Diversity, and the Gholdy Muhammad book, Cultivating Genius. So all of these books, and there are more, we don't have an exhaustive list, and this is where we invite our adjunct faculty to contribute to this. At the end, you'll see we've set up a Padlet for them to contribute, and once we look at the Padlet, we'll put it and include it on our Google site. So then we have the resources. Again, we have links, the direct links to webinars to really help. And if they don't know what they wanted to see, there's little blurbs on there and they would say, oh, okay, that sounds really good. Maybe I'll do that. So we have little blurbs on it. So they can just click directly on it because, we know time is valuable, and the easier we can make this for the part-time faculty, the more that it's going to get in use. Yes, it's a lot of work, but it is so worth it because, I'm hearing from adjunct faculty how they're really using it. We have the books. And again, this is not an exhaustive list by no means. Eventually, I do envision us creating a whole Google site or some type of resource where it will have the books on it, because it's just so many books that's coming out. I mean, I just looked up some more books and it's like amazing. But again, we have a little blurb on what it's about, and we have the hyperlink. Most of it goes to Amazon, but you don't necessarily have to buy it from Amazon. But again, reducing the amount of time that part-time faculty will have to do for the search. And so this is organized by topic, like protesting and culturally inclusive text. So the next one is articles. Again, we really want to support our faculty in really understanding where this is coming from, and understanding sometimes the research is really new, but the research is out there. This one actually came from an adjunct faculty, and I added it on here and I put it right at the top because they're not too young to talk about race, and really understanding that even though we're in early childhood and the preschool really gets neglected in that area, there's some research that I just read where 2 months old really recognize the differences in colors. Now I've done the math on it because they recognize the difference in quantity and more or less, but now the research is that they recognize the difference in facial structures. So it's really interesting, and to really support our students in understanding that too. So again, all the different resources here, and all of these are hyperlinks, so they can go in there. And the most important thing that we really emphasize in our program is family involvement. Okay, the family is a crucial part of child development. And so there's family resources in there to support that. And as a matter of fact, a couple of days ago, somebody put something up there for family resources that needs to go on here too. The technology, okay, really how to use the technology. So I have the 2 technologies that we have at Hunter College. And again, the School of Education, the Frankfurt Center, and then also the ACER, so that they would know that they have these resources available to them to really help, especially with the videos, how embedding the videos into their lessons and using those videos like VoiceThread, to really comment on different things that may be occurring in the videos that they're using. But they know that they have resources at Hunter College and the School of Education to really support that. One thing that Lacey, Maria, and I are really emphasizing is really the professional development. And really communicating, because we value all the expertise and experience that our part-time faculty have. And so really understanding that they have just as much to give to our students in our program as the full-time faculty. There's other professional development tools that they can use to really support them in learning how to really guide this ideal of culturally responsive pedagogy. And some of them are teacher leaders. We do have a few that are retired, but we do have some that are leaders in their programs. The other piece, again, is that family engagement, how to really support families in helping their children understanding culturally responsive pedagogy and anti-bias, anti-racist curriculum. Now we started putting videos in to see what some of them, what's been going on. And these are more recent videos because as you can see, they're all on Zoom. For For these first two, this is actually my bonus grandson who actually lives in Texas. He has an IEP, and I joined one of his IEP meetings, and I was very, very disappointed in how low the goals were. So I started working with him and really bringing in things that were meaningful to him, right? So helping him with his fluency and comprehension. And so these videos really show, you can actually see the learning on his face and the excitement on his face, and how his fluency and comprehension has enhanced so much because the things that he were doing were so meaningful. He was able to make connections. This actual one is actual from the virtual tutoring that I did during the pandemic to support the students and have an authentic teaching, learning, and assessment experience. So as I'm looking at more and more videos, again, this is time consuming, but it's so worth it because I think students and part-time faculty really need to see that this can occur and how short it can occur and how it really impacts students' social emotional development and their approaches to learning while they're getting all of the other developmental domains. The conversation starters. Now, this is something that, I had thought about even for myself. How do you get this conversation started, right? Especially in your class, because you really have a syllabus, you have learning objectives and goals, you have assignments. So how do you really get these conversations started? Sometimes I haven't taught a methods class this semester, but I think when I do go back to teaching in the fall, I'm going to really start out with the dial test. And just by a show of hands, how many people are familiar with the dial test, where they show the dials? Okay, Lacey, I knew you would. Well, basically, they just show a black dial and a white dial, and they ask questions about which one you think is prettier, which one looks more like you. Natasha has her hand up too. So it's a really interesting video to watch. Okay, so it'll be interesting because this was done a while ago. I think it would be nice to see an update of it and see not just the black and white dials, but other cultures. But it's really interesting to see how the children responded. Becoming anti-racist, all the different things starting from the fear zone, going all the way to the growth zone, what racial gaslighting can look like. Just one version of why Black Lives Matters. This one I really like because this resonates with most early childhood people. They know the book, The Giving Tree. And so really understanding what equality, inequality, equity is and what justice is, and really having a starter conversation with that. Again, this goes back to Hammond's dimensions of equity and really knowing what equity is. It's just not Black History Month and diverse images on pamphlets. It's all of this, and probably could add even more to it, right? Here's another one. I used to see in those who are familiar with it, just these first three, but I really like, the liberation piece of it. Again, these are conversation starters. And what does this actually mean? All of these things does not change white privilege, right? Again, having these conversations, but not knowing how to start them. So, for me, this really supported me a lot too. And just as important, because this is a resource, we have to take care of ourselves. We really do. And what does that look like? The physical, the emotional, the social, having those boundaries, right? And Lacey can tell you, I have very strict boundaries when it comes to students. And I am a student advocate, but family is first for me, and it has to be some strict boundaries. Otherwise, it does interfere with all these others. And then, we need to take care of ourselves mentally and physically, and whatever it is that we do. So for the most part, this is for the adjuncts to really support them. And Lacey and Maria and I talk a lot too. So, we support each other. The next one is the lesson plans. All of our classes have some lesson plan, and we really want to be on the same page with the lesson plans, with the expectations. So again, this is just an outline of lesson planning and how it should, and it's almost it is a non-negotiable for it to align with the culturally responsive pedagogy. Okay, so it's just some things from the research. And the scaffolding is so important. How do we do that? And I see it clearly with what I'm supporting my bonus grandson with. So much scaffolding, but I see so much growth because of it. Then we have the lesson plan template, which is used throughout our program. Okay, so again, if they don't have it, and most of them do, when we have new faculty members, they can just come on the site and just download it, because this is all connected to their Hunter School of Education email addresses, because they all get G Suites through the Hunter College School of Education. And the important things, I'm just going to bring up this general lesson plan so that you can see what we have in it. So basically, our lesson plans are very, very comprehensive. They will never have to fill out lesson plans like this when they get teaching jobs, but we really want to set the foundation and the expectation so that they'll get into the habit of always looking for these things and documenting these types of things and types of development and growth, even when there's not an expectation. But I just want to move down to the methods of assessing, the pre-assessment, the assessment of student learning, the assessment of children's language learning, and how they differentiate instruction, not just for the struggling learner and those who need more of a challenge, but also the ones who have IEPs. And we actually encourage our students, almost make it that they have to write in the language of IEP, because they may be working in ICT classrooms. They need to understand the language of the IEPs and how they can support those students who have been identified with their development and growth. They also need to say how they're supporting students whose English is not their first language, and how their activity supports a culturally responsive pedagogy and anti-bias, anti-racist curriculum. They do struggle with this, but we do help them a lot. I have lesson plans due for a course that I'm teaching. They're due on Friday. And, I'll meet with them. I'll talk with them. How can you, what kind of book can you add? What kind of materials can you add? What can you talk with the parents about? Again, making sure that parent engagement is strong so that they can complete this part of the lesson plan. And the other important part is the family engagement activity. How can I support families in extending the learning environment in their home environment? So those pieces are really important in the lesson plan template. We also have ones that's specific for our language and literacy courses. It just adds some of the specific content that they learn so it doesn't change that much. It just adds on a few details to help them embed the language and literacy that is important for that coursework. And the same thing for the math. It's the same template, it just adds more detail that's related to the math content and math development, specifically related to clinical interview questions. Then we have our contact information, the 3 full-time faculty, the curriculum and teaching department staff, and then the full-time faculty and the courses that they teach. The last piece is the updates. They get lots of emails from Hunter. And not only from Hunter, but they also get emails from the School of Education. They get emails from they get emails from a lot of it. So we like to narrow it down. So the vaccination policy, now the mask policy update, understanding what that is. The Equity and Advocacy Committee, because this really is a website or a Google site that really focuses on the culturally responsive pedagogy and anti-bias, anti-racist curriculum. So we really want them to be involved with the Equity and Advocacy Committee. They have a meeting tomorrow. The upcoming workshops, the Critical Friends workshops, those dates aren't in yet. So as soon as they come, I'll put them in there. The Equity Eats is later on this month. And this is where they actually get to put in any of the resources or any of the activities that they do in their own class, so that other faculty member can see what they're doing and maybe adjust it and adapt it to something that they're already doing. So this is a Padlet, and this is just the hyperlink to go into it. So that is the outline of our Google site. It's constantly evolving. It's fluid. So, Lacey, Maria, and I add things to it. The part-time faculty add things to it. So as new books come out, I have a list of the new books. Again, I do envision us having a whole separate Google site or some type of online document just with books. So, any questions?